Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode we're going to be looking at the true story of the assassins. Before we get into the video, do not forget to leave a like, share and subscribe to the channel for more facts about anything and everything. If you're familiar with the popular Assassin's Creed video game franchise, you know all about the secret society of the Assassins. It's been battling another clandestine organization, the Templars, throughout most of human history. In the video game, the assassins are well-trained killers with impressive parkour skills and the ability and the stealth to elude pursuing guards as they track down and eliminate their targets. What you might not realize though is that the fictional assassins were inspired very loosely by a real historical phenomenon. There was a very real order of assassins who were agents of the Nizari Ismaili, a faction of Shia Muslims who broke away from the larger Shia community in the late 11th century. They took refuge in an assortment of castles up in the mountains in Syria and what is now Iran. The assassins, as described by crusaders and other travelers, were a warlike sect hidden up in the mountains, obeying a mysterious leader known as the Old Man of the Mountain. Over the next 2 centuries, returning crusaders and travelers brought back their own stories, adding sensational details to the legend of the assassins. It was said that they were experts in the craft of murder, trained from childhood to use stealth and deceit, and that they were so devoted and loyal to their leader that they would easily sacrifice their life for his slightest whim. It was from these legends that the word assassin soon entered the European language as a common noun meaning a murderer who kills for politics or money. So, how much of this is actually based on fact? Were the assassins real? The Old Man of the Mountain, as mentioned in Assassin legend, was a real figure. His name was Rashid al-Din Sinan, and he led the Nizaris for almost 30 years at the height of their power in the late 12th century. As a religious minority with enemies from all sides, ranging from the Turkish Seljuk Empire to European crusaders, the Nizari Ismailis were in a tough situation. Nevertheless, for nearly 2 centuries, from the late 11th century to the mid 13th century, the small faction of assassins instilled fear and respect from rulers with big powerful armies. That's because the faction didn't fight the way everyone else did. To the contrary, their fighters generally avoided battle altogether. Instead, they relied on surprising and killing the leaders of their enemies. Being much weaker than their main adversaries in conventional military terms, the Nizaris relied on guerrilla warfare that included espionage, infiltration of enemy territory, and targeted killing of enemy leaders. Perhaps their most famous target was the crusader leader Conrad of Montferrat, who was intercepted while he walked home from dinner with a bishop in the city of Tyre. He was stabbed to death just days before he was to be crowned the king of Jerusalem in April 1192. Though the assassins have been written about extensively over the years by historians such as Marshall Hodgson, there is not much information available on their training and tactics. Generally speaking, the assassins' attacks seem to have a high degree of coordination and targeted victims when they were at their most vulnerable. A famous example of such an assassination was that of Nizam al-Mulk, who was the 11th century chief minister of the Turkish Seljuk Sultans. He was returning home from a day's work, and of course his mind was preoccupied with the pleasures to be had that evening, that the disguise of a holy man stopping him for a conversation did not raise any suspicion. The technique used was fairly rapid and effective means of assassination. But the stories that circulated in Europe weren't entirely accurate. It is important to note that most of the information available about the Nizaris came from 2 hostile sources, the Sunni Muslims and the Crusaders. In this case, the more outlandish aspect about the legends, such as the use of drugs, are not supported by Ismaili sources. Even the name assassin, that was derived from the Arabic hashashi, was a pejorative term and was never used by the Nizaris themselves. While the Nizaris' strategies and tactics enabled them to survive against the Turks and the Crusaders, they met their match when a new adversary, the Mongols arrived in the 1200s. The new enemy didn't waste time with strategic maneuvering. The Mongol style was brutal and relentless, and used terror as a psychological weapon to a degree far greater than that used by the Turks and the Crusaders. The Mongols quickly took over the Nizari's main castle in Alamut in modern-day Iran, though some of the factions' castles held out longer. Contrary to popular belief inspired by modern media portrayals, there is no substantial historical evidence to suggest that the Assassins and the Templars engaged in combat against one another. While both groups existed during the same historical period in the Middle Ages, their ideologies, missions, and geographical territories were significantly distinct. The spiritual successors of the Nizari Ismailis, the Assassins, exist today as a subsect of Shia Islam. While they have no connection to the tactics of assassination or political subversion associated with their medieval predecessors, they carry forward the sect's philosophical and religious teachings. What do you think about the Assassins? Do you think there was a link between the Templars and the Assassins? Leave a comment down below, and as always, do not forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more facts about anything and everything. Thank you.